I don't know if alarming is the right word, but it sounds right.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball. We are about to start week 2 in the NBA. There's been plenty of weird stuff going on, punch-ons, injuries, huge performances, disappointments, all the stuff that we've come to expect from the NBA. Michael Bolton, he's ready.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. What we're going to do and start off today's show is by looking at the week ahead, looking at week 2, looking at the schedule, looking at ways that you can help improve your team for the coming week in fantasy basketball. We'll start off by looking at the team with the best schedule and the team with the worst schedule for this week ahead. They're two very, very good teams who do appear on that list of my good and bad teams for the coming week. I have the Golden State Warriors as the best looking team for this week. They play 4 games. They play no back-to-backs. They have 2 quality games, and you should know what a quality game is by now. And they play against opponents that are going to enable them to put up big numbers. The Phoenix Suns, the Washington Wizards, the New York Knicks, and the Brooklyn Nets. So some pretty interesting situations here. You should be able to get big weeks out of your guns like Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. But even players like Kevon Looney, maybe Damo Jones, maybe even Andre Iguodala can come in and be of use, especially in a weekly lineup lock league. You might be able to get those guys actually into your active lineup based on the games that they play and the quality of the opponents and defenses in particular that they are going up against. So I've got the Warriors as the team having my best week for this week. On the flip side, their Western Conference Finals opponent from last season, the Houston Rockets, I think have the worst week. They have 2 games. They don't play until Wednesday. They have zero real quality games as well. Utah on Wednesday, the Clippers on Friday. The Jazz, we know in the past, have been low-scoring, low-paced games, although the Jazz numbers this season have been through the roof. And then the Clippers again on Friday. We know Chris Paul is suspended for one of those games, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. But the Rockets are one of 5 teams that play 2 games, but they have probably the more difficult of the opponents there with the Jazz and the Clippers. So players like maybe Eric Gordon, who is going to get a boost for that game that Paul is out, but in a weekly lineup lock, his 2 games, are they going to be enough to actually get him to start? Will Clint Capella's 2 games be enough to get him to start? And then of course, you've got James Ennis and Carmelo Anthony and these sort of players who probably shouldn't even be touching your roster anyway. But in this sort of a week, they're just not going to have any real use. So your best team for the week is the Golden State Warriors and the worst team is the Houston Rockets. Just one quick thing I want to touch on with the NBA. The pace is absolutely out of control this season. Scores are through the roof. Teams are regularly scoring 130, 140. It's going to throw off so many of our stats when we look and compare, say, this year to last year. Well, he improved by 4 points per game. Well, the league is improving by this sort of rate as well. So I think it's more important now than ever to pay attention to per possession stats or per 100 possession stats when we're comparing season to season, because we're seeing teams that are playing at a pace elevated of 4 or 5 extra possessions per game, which could mean an extra 2 shots per game for some people, an extra 2 rebounds, an extra assist, whatever it is, but it is going to have an impact. The scoring is absolutely through the roof, and while it isn't necessarily benefiting one team over another, we're going to see numbers rise right across the fantasy landscape because of this phenomenon of teams just going as hammer and tong as I've ever seen in basketball, at least in recent memory. Anyway, they are putting up some pretty impressive numbers. So let's continue to look ahead at this week. Week 2 in the NBA. As I already mentioned, there are 5 teams with 2 games, and there are 9 games with... 5 teams with 2 games, 9 teams with 4 games for the coming week. The 2-game teams, the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Heat, the Hawks, and the Rockets. Of all of those teams, the Nuggets play earliest. They play on Tuesday. You've got 2 teams, one team, the Thunder. They don't play again until Thursday. That is a massive, massive delay. And then the Heat, the Hawks, and the Rockets all play on Wednesday. Just terrible schedules for those teams. And on the good side of things, the Warriors, the Bucks, the Bulls, the Suns, the Wizards, the Jazz, Hornets, Lakers, and Mavericks all have 4 games this coming week. Interesting schedule notes, the Clippers have 3 games, and all 3 of those games are quality games, meaning you are likely to be able to stream those players in. If we have a look at how the week actually goes schedule-wise, you've got 9 games Monday, 3 games Tuesday, 11 games on Wednesday, 4 Thursday, 7 Friday, 9 Saturday, and 4 games on Sunday. So our quality days are Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, which is important for us to pay attention to. So the Tuesday, Thursday, well, actually, back to Clippers, 3 games, 3 quality games. The Spurs also play 3 games, 0 quality games. So you could go and adding someone who is relatively similarly ranked on the Spurs versus on the Clippers, and you will, let's see if I can pull out some examples of names here. You have 4 players who are ranked similarly between these two teams. Say Pau Gasol and Montrezl Harrell, who for this coming week on Basketball Monster, they're ranked 147th and 148th. So relatively close, and this is all going to be context based and all that sort of stuff. But if you go and add Pau Gasol, you can use him approximately 0 times this week. If you go and add the table Montrezl Harrell, you can use him 3 times this week. So while the per game ranking stat for this week, or the total value stat for this week, gives them this almost the exact same rank, you won't be able to use Power necessarily on those days. Now, it would also 100% depend on how your roster shakes out on those days, but I'm going in general. Whereas Harrell, you can use 3 times, and at the very bare minimum, you will get more games, active games, out of Harrell than you will out of Gasol. So it's never just a case of blindly looking, 3 games, look at how he's ranked, and that's why I reference ranks just as a point of reference, but they're useless in ads and determining draft value and all that sort of stuff, because these guys could be ranked exactly the same right next to each other, but in context, they are very, very different in terms of where that value comes from. The Tuesday-Thursday situation, we've got Detroit and Denver who have got a pseudo back-to-back on those days. So the Nuggets, while they only play 2 games, they play Tuesday, they play Thursday. So you can actually get value out of those guys, whether it's Torrey Craig, the game winner, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, players like this, Mason Plumlee even, you could add from the Nuggets. You only get 2 games, but you can use them on both of those days. And the Pistons also have that Tuesday-Thursday pseudo back-to-back against the Sixers and the Cavs, so some value there for them. Thursday-Friday, actual back-to-back, no teams play. And then Friday-Sunday, there's 5 teams that play there. You've got the Warriors, the Wizards, the Mavericks, the Clippers, and the Nets all playing on that Friday-Sunday back-to-back to end the season. I do have to let you guys know that today's podcast is brought to you by Vivid Seats, which is the best place for you to go to find those tickets for a great night out. We all love going and watching the basketball, going and watching a punch-on between the Rockets and the Lakers, going to see a concert, and Vivid Seats is the place that you need to go so you can get those tickets and get to see your favorite live event. It's the top source for tickets for all live events that you want to go to, and you can sort on their app either by price or by looking for seats in the particular section that you want to sit in. And to make things even better, Vivid Seats is giving listeners an exclusive promo code for all new customers to receive $20 off any order of $200 or more. Go to the App Store, go to Google Play, download the Vivid Seats app and enter the promo code LOCKEDON, all one word, for $20 off any order of $200 or more. There is also a 100% buyer guarantee with Vivid Seats. So download the app, use the promo code LOCKEDON and save $20 off any order of $200 or more. Make a memory that lasts a lifetime and let Vivid Seats help you get to your favorite live event. All right, let's look more action here for the week ahead. Some players that I like to look at, especially for weekly lock leagues who might be on your waiver wire, who could have some value. Ersan Ilyasova for the Bucks, they have 4 games and he is looking like he's getting some significant run under Mike Budenholzer. Isaiah Kanan, who has now decided to change the to change the pronunciation of his name. He is worthwhile. He's getting minutes in the high 20s for the Suns. They have a pretty strong schedule, 4 games. Cody Zeller, JaVale McGee, a couple of centers you can look at. I think McGee needs to be added in pretty much all leagues if possible. Zeller has a nice week coming up. JJ Barea, Justin Holiday, and Jay Crowder. Out of those guys, Crowder I think is a 12-team option in general, but value for Barea, Holiday, and Crowder for this coming week coming up ahead. And that's so that covers off, I think, everything for the week ahead. One thing I do want to mention, and I'm guilty of this as well, I'm trying to change it, is we reference stuff in fantasy and we talk about fantasy owners and owning players and must own and that sort of stuff. I'm going to try and get away from using that term. The notion of using the term own in terms of a league that's majority black players, it just doesn't sit comfortably with me. So I am going to be trying to not use that term and use the term must roster instead. I don't know, it just doesn't sit very well with me, and just wanted to get that out there. And I am going to try and to really eliminate that from my vocabulary, because it is something that is said innocently, but it just doesn't come across as a good look in my opinion. So just trying to eliminate that from the fantasy sports lexicon if possible. With my small influence, hopefully we can get that changed to some degree. So hopefully that can happen. Let's now look at Sunday's action and look at the monstrous line of the night. It is also the same player who is the young gun of the night, because of course it is Trae Young. The old, as I saw someone describe Trae Young, he looks like a chopper chop who's been dropped in a ball of dog hair. That's fair enough. He had 35 points, only the 1 rebound, but hit 6 triples, had 11 assists, a steal, and was 13 of 23 from the field. Absolutely fantastic. The Cavs defense, it looked absolutely trash, but Young was fantastic. I've been touting Young as a decent fantasy option this season, especially if you're willing to forego his field goal percentage. I said he'd get assists, I said he'd get steals, I said he'd get to the line. And so far this season, he's the 22nd ranked player. So we're talking extreme value. I think he's going to be a top 50 guy this season. He's already averaging 23 and 8 and over 3 threes per game. And the field goal percentage has actually been pretty good, 46%. We're only 3 games in, of course. And his 2 games prior to this, he was under 40%. So there's obviously things that can skew pretty easily. But Young has been fantastic. I think he's going to be a top 3 Rookie of the Year finisher. He could very easily get to that level and win that award. He's been excellent. The minutes are there from day one. They're not going to change as the season goes on, and he is going to get better and better, I believe. Really, really strong stuff from Trae Young, and he was a solid 70 to 90-ish type draft pick, and it's worked out pretty well, and I got him on quite a few teams. Let's talk waiver wire line of the night. This guy is also the Deep League player of the night.
Waiver wire line of the night.
And it is Iman Shumpert of the Sacramento Kings. There will legitimately be people listening to this podcast who did not know that Iman Shumpert was still in the NBA, and that's fair enough because he's barely played over the last 2 years. But Dave Yeager, always looking with an eye to the future, decided to start Iman Shumpert in this game alongside Nemanja Bjelica. They've got to get those 2 30-year-olds out there at the 3 and the 4. He played 30 minutes and he was absolutely red hot. 26 points, and it wasn't just the scoring. And if it was just scoring, we could write it off and go, okay, well, that's weird. 26 points on 13 shots is fantastic. But 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks, fantastic. When Bogdan Bogdanovic comes back, he will eventually take this spot back. Shumpert is probably a better player than Justin Jackson. He's probably a better player than Yogi Ferrell, who he replaced in the starting lineup. But regardless of whether he starts or not, he looks like he's going to remain in the rotation. Now, it's probably not a 12-team situation here for Shumpert, but I do think those of you in deeper leagues, whether that's a 16-team league or even a 14-team league, I think you've got to be paying some attention here to Shump. Now, of course, these percentages won't stick, those defensive numbers won't stick, but a guy that gets 17 or 18 minutes a night in those 16, maybe 18-team leagues, maybe that's more viable. Guys who get that level of playing time can be useful. He's shown in the past an ability to get steals, and he's owned in approximately 0% of Yahoo leagues as well, so he's around. Go and have a look in those deeper type formats and see if Shumpert makes any sense on your team, because this was a real throwback. Again, don't expect this level of performance from Shumpert, but it is something that it does require us to pay some attention to him, just because of the fact that he has been in the rotation for those first 3 games. Just don't expect that level of overall production as we move forward. The dud of the night. I tell a man's not hot. Pretty obvious, this one. It's the Blue Arrow, Jamal Murray. 3 points, 0 of 9 from the field, 2 rebounds and 2 assists. No peripheral stats. He was 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He did suffer a tibial contusion, so a bruised leg in this game as well, but he was struggling really before that anyway. So I'm going to get these questions, and this is going to happen. I can guarantee you someone listening to this podcast, more than one person listening to this podcast, is going to have an issue in their league where Jamal Murray gets dropped. Now, he's ranked outside the top 130 so far this season, averaging 12 points per game, but he is still averaging 32 minutes a night, and that's probably the most important thing, because last season he was struggling at the start of the season, but was only playing 25 minutes, and I was quite critical of the Dr. Mike Malone. I know that's a stunner that I'd criticize Malone. But now the minutes are still there, but he's shooting only 31% from the field and 25% from 3. This is a guy who hit 39% 38% of his threes last year and 45% of his field goals in general. So we've got pretty significant room for him to improve. He's not going to regress 14 percentage points in his field goal percentage. It is going to come back up and the minutes are there. So this is the perfect opportunity to buy low on the Blue Arrow. Send out your second worst player. Send out a real trash bag of an offer, because his owner will be the team manager that rosters Jamal Murray is going to be frustrated, and if that person doesn't understand the vagaries of early season percentages, they will be willing to move on from Murray. So this is important to pay attention to go and find that owner, just engage them in trade talks. Don't seem too keen. Oh man, I really want Murray, because they'll be like, oh, maybe I should hold on. But gauge it out. First of all, check if he gets dropped, and that's an automatic go and grab him off the waiver wire if that's the case. But otherwise, just seek it out for a trade, because I can 100% guarantee you that Murray will shoot better than this and his numbers will improve. This was an absolute stinker, but he will be better than this. There is absolutely no worries about that whatsoever. Let's look at the plus-minus GOAT and the GOAT. The best net rating of the day went to Nemanja Bjelica, who was a plus 64.2, while the worst net rating for players who played over 15 minutes for the night was the young bull Colin Sexton of the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll talk about Sexton in just a moment. Let's go through and in a sec just give you some injuries. But if you want your company to find a new way to reach new customers, you can be mentioned right now. Podcast listeners are 60% more likely to interact with the sponsors they hear on podcasts, and our demographic is 98% males and has more education and a higher earning than traditional media audiences. So if you want to sponsor this podcast, email me at redrockfantasybasketball@gmail.com. Let's look at the injuries that have occurred over the last few days in the NBA. Trevion Graham for the Nets has suffered a hamstring injury. This could open up more time for Jana Musa and Rowdy Rodions Kurucs, although Kurucs himself suffered an ankle injury. JaMychal Green, probably the biggest injury, or maybe the second biggest injury news. Not that Green was necessarily a standard league guy, but he broke his jaw. He's likely to be out between 4 to 6 weeks. I'd lean more towards the 6 weeks than the 4 with Green. And this means that Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, is going to start, and I won't be stunned, but there should be absolutely zero way that Jackson ever cedes this starting power forward job back to JaMychal Green. And if he does, JB Bickerstaff should be immediately fired. If he hands in the starting lineup and Green is starting over Jaren Jackson, John Hollinger should, Vince McMahon, walk out onto the court, put Bickerstaff in handcuffs, and get him off the field. Field, court, you know what I mean. That should not happen. Jackson is already a top 50 player for this season. He is going to spike. The minutes are going to spike. He has to be rostered. So check if he is on your waiver wire. That shouldn't be the case, but Jaren Jackson Jr., the opportunity has opened up. Deep leagues, you want to look at someone like Ivan Rabb, who can move now into a backup role, maybe a 15, 16 minute a night role. Hopefully we get a little bit more out of Kyle Anderson, although he is dealing with an illness at the moment, so we know JB Bickerstaff's been a little bit frustrating there with him. But some more opportunities, especially if they want to play Chandler Parsons more at the 4, opening up some opportunities there for Kyle Anderson. So some interesting things happening there. In Memphis, Sam Dekker was dealing with a injury, but he was fine. He played today. Domantas Sabonis, knee. He missed a game over the weekend. If he misses time, then the cock monster Kyle O'Quinn is going to be your deep league target. It also helps boost some of Miles Turner's value. So if Turner has another strong game, if Sabonis misses, I'd look to sell high as a top 40 guy. I don't believe Turner will be able to get to that level. The Hammer, Denzel Valentine, is out for the next 2 weeks with an ankle injury, while Dirk is going to be out until the end of October with his ankle injury. There's no reason for Dirk to be on a fantasy roster outside of very deep ones. While I think Valentine could sneak in some 12-team value when he eventually comes back, but he's obviously losing ground with this missed start to the season. In Miami, Jim Johnson and Dion Waiters both have no timetable to return. Waiters shouldn't be around 12 or probably even 14-team leagues, while Johnson is on the periphery of a 12. I expect when he comes back, he'll flirt with some value, but I've talked about it already. The Heat just have so much depth there. I don't know how they're going to distribute these minutes with how Rodney McGruder's playing. You know, Kelly Olynyk, Bam Adebayo, Hassan Whiteside, Justice Winslow's got to come back into the mix. I don't know if Johnson's going to get the same amount of playing time he had last year, and that's going to make it tough for him to be a rosterable player. Aaron Baines hurt his hamstring. He will miss tomorrow's game. That's just going to hopefully open up some time for the Rock DJ, Robbie Williams. Kevin Knox is out for the next, at least he's going to be reevaluated in a week with a sprained ankle. Shums immediately or initially reported 2 to 4 weeks. I think that's 2 weeks is probably a more realistic thing for the Fort Kevin Knox. We would hope that It's a Me Mario Hezonja can get some of that playing time, although Noah Vonleh was the guy that benefited in that game. Knox, I didn't really think he was much of a standard league guy with his lack of other numbers apart from scoring and low efficiency. I don't think that Vonleh or Hezonja, and speaking of Hezonja, I don't think if you want to move on from him, I think you can. So I don't think there's any real massive beneficiary here, maybe a little bit to Frankie Ntilikina. Benny Simmons left the Sixers last game with a back injury. It meant the ball went more into Markelle Fultz's hands, and that did help Fultz in his overall value. I don't think we need to be panicking too much here, though, with Simmons and his back. Farton Will Barton. Initially, I had him down as a hip injury. It turned out to be a groin strain. I would imagine that he misses 4 to 6 weeks with this groin injury. You may need to get rid of him if you don't have an injured reserve slot. We saw today Torrey Craig started in Barton's place. Juancho Hernan-Gomez was the one who closed the game, and Trey Lyles also got some minutes. They all got about 21, 22 minutes each, meaning neither of them or none of that trio really become guys that you absolutely have to go and grab in standard formats, more deeper league type of players. Juancho is the guy that I do like the best out of that group as an actual player, but Lyles is probably the more fantasy friendly. Suspensions, we saw that punch on. I'll just go through what the suspensions were. Rajon Rondo gets 3 games, Brandon Ingram gets 4 games, and Chris Paul gets 2 games, of which he has already served 1. Now, as for Rondo, this means Lonzo Ball will go back to starting. His minutes restriction apparently should be lifted soon, so hopefully, and I don't know this for sure, but hopefully this means this is the end of the Rondo starting experiment in LA, and we see Lonzo continuing to start. As for Ingram, he has been a disappointment to this season. I was pretty off on him heading into this season anyway. He hasn't lived up to some of the expectations that others had of him. Trying to fit in around LeBron hasn't necessarily worked, and it was a pretty dog act from Ingram to jump in and throw a haymaker from behind in that fight. As for Rondo, he is a shit bloke. He's consistently been a shit bloke, and I did tweet this out yesterday. That he is, I'm real stunned that he spat in Chris Paul's face. A massive, absolute shocker. Real stunning behavior from the guy that decided to use a homophobic slur against a ref and then out him to the public when he hadn't personally come out himself. Real stunner for a guy who quit on his team in the playoffs. Massive shock that Rondo was able to do this. Now, a lot of people, Chris Paul deserved it because he's annoying. Yeah, Chris Paul is annoying, but Rondo is more annoying. He's a bigger dick, and he spat in the bloke's face. Oh man, Chris Paul put his fingers. I don't care if you spit in someone's face. That is way more offensive than putting your fingers in someone's face. And then Rondo went and punched him in the head. And these suspensions are so light. In the Australian Football League, a guy punches someone in the face like these guys did, and they connected. They get 6 weeks. And 6 weeks of NBA action is 24 games, 20 games. And these guys get 2 games, 3 games. It is an extraordinarily low suspension amount for me. If you're throwing just scuffling with guys, fine. If you are throwing punches and landing them in someone's face, you need to be gone 10, 15 games minimum. I think these are just way too low, and all of these players got off lightly in this scenario. Alex Abrines suffered a mouth injury. He was initially ruled today as able to return, but then didn't. Well, as I mentioned, Jamal Murray did come back into the game with that bruised tibia, but it is something for us to pay attention to as we move forward to see if it is going to be something that does bother him. It is something we do need to pay attention to because it could limit him and it could cause him to sit out some games, meaning we'd have to fire up the old Monty Morris hype train in that case. And I'm a big fan of old Monty. All right, let's have a look at these games from Sunday. We'll get into them. Dig into them in a little bit more detail now. There was a nice spread of games. So I enjoyed today's games quite a bit. We got a bit of action out of them. The Atlanta Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers is the first game that we need to pay attention to, or that we are going to pay attention to here. I talked about Trae Young already, but it was a big game from Alex Len. 16 and 11, 4 blocks in 32 minutes. Importantly, he was able to stay on the court. He'd been limited by fouls in the first couple of games. We don't know when the Undertaker Dwayne Dedman is due back. Could be soon. The Baptist John Collins, same thing. But for now, I think that Len should be rostered on in fantasy leagues because I think there is a legitimate chance he remains the starter over Dedman when he comes back. And that could give you top 80, top 70 type value if Len does remain in that role. The artist formerly known as Taurean Prince, the minutes still frustratingly low. The shooting percentage was low. 30% usage is nice. 14 and 6 with 2 steals is still good production, but we'd hope that he'd just be able to play a little bit more. There was also some big games from the Wizard, Amari Spellman. 17 points in 24 minutes, but it's one of those classic empty lines fueled by really high shooting. 17 points on 9 shots, 1 rebound, 1 assist, no other numbers. When Collins and Dedmon come back, he is going to lose a fair chunk of his value there. And I was super encouraged by Kevin Huerter. 9, 10, and 4, 3 threes and 2 steals in 25 minutes. I think that when the Hawks do trade Kent Bazemore, who was really good here with 23 points, Huerter's going to jump into that position and he's going to be close to having standard league type value. As for Jeremy Lin, 10 minutes, 1 rebound, a real stinker from Lin. He hasn't been able to get anything going, and the fact that they're using Huerter and a lot more DeAndre Bembry makes me think that Lin isn't going to be able to reclaim anything close to top 100 value for this season, and if he is on your team, you should be looking to move on, in my opinion. For the Cavs, talked about Colin Sexton a bit already. 28 minutes, 4, 2, and 2 on 2 of 11 shooting. He is not a standard league player, not 10, not 12, maybe not even 14 leagues. And you can say, oh, at some point they're going to give him the keys. Well, he played 28 minutes tonight. He's just not good. Rookies suck in general. Rookie point guards suck in general. And he has a very empty-looking fantasy stat profile, which is going to limit what he can do. Think Dennis Smith Jr., but worse from last season. That is not an appealing type of fantasy play, and I think that's what Sexton's going to be. So if you do have him, I would definitely be moving on, and it wouldn't have been someone that I was looking super interested in drafting anyway, but I'd move on there. Chetty Osman didn't have a good shooting night, but still 12, 3, and 4, a steal, a block, and the most important thing, 39 minutes. He's going to play a ton. He's going to get all the usage that he can get. Fantastic there. While Larry Nance made his season debut, 9, 4, and 4 for Nance in 17 minutes. Those minutes will go up. I don't trust Ty Lue to give him the 25 or 26 he needs, but I still think that you want to look at Nance as a 12-team league player. Solid from George Hill, who had 16 with 3 assists, and Tristan Thompson had 11 and 9. Thompson is more of that deeper league guy, while Love had 16 and 17, but really cooled off after a hot start. And I do have to give credit to Jordan Clarkson, but this is as Jordan Clarkson a line as we can get. 19 points in 23 minutes is great. 3 rebounds and 2 assists is not. And of course, it came on 58% shooting, which is something that's unlikely for him to be able to continue. He's a guy that on a Sunday you throw into a lineup and you go, man, I just need some points. Maybe Clarko can give it to me. And if he does, great. And then after that, you move on and you grab someone else into your lineup. Interestingly, the Plumber, J.R. Smith, and Kyle Korver, both DNP CDs, along with David Nwaba. Wasn't really expecting that to be the case. The Cavs played 3 centers in this game with Ante Zizic playing 3 minutes, but both Smith and Korver out of the rotation. So I think a little bit of a surprise to see that happening, and not one that I entirely hate. The next game we take a look at, the Sacramento Kings 131, the Oklahoma City Thunder 120, an absolute stunning result. Russell Westbrook was back for the Thunder, but you cannot stop the purple juggernaut that is the Sacramento Kings. Bjelica, 12, 5, and 4, 3 steals, a block, and 2 triples. Really strong in 31 minutes. I don't fully trust what Dave Yeager's going to do. Last game, Bjelica barely played, and it was Marvin Bagley getting the bulk of the minutes. In this one, Bagley only 24 minutes, and nowhere near as productive as he was in that other one. But Bjelica does have borderline 12-team value, so you could look at him, but I wouldn't classify him as someone that you absolutely have to go and get. There's some nice numbers there. Strong 14 or 16 team league value. Budrick Hield, only 23 minutes. Pretty frustrating there, but still lovely production. 17, 5, and 2. While De'Aaron Fox, he's on waiver wires, guys. De'Aaron Fox is on waiver wires. Go and add him, please. 22, 4, and 10. A 3, a steal, and a block, also known as a 111. Shot well, that'll drop off, but the minutes are being absolutely force-fed to De'Aaron Fox, and that is great for his overall fantasy numbers. Harry Giles, I don't think he's quite a standard league guy. 8 and 6, a steal and 2 blocks, really nice numbers, but it's just the consistent low minutes, which ties into things that the Kings said we're going to take it really slowly with him this year, and that's sort of what we're seeing. Cauley Stein, foul trouble, 13 and 7 in 22 minutes, while Bagley also had 13 and 7 in 24. I would have Stein over Bagley. Bagley is still okay in 12 teams as a borderline guy, but again, lack of efficiency, lack of steals, lack of assists, lack of blocks is probably going to limit his overall upside, and I wouldn't be classifying him as someone that if you see on a waiver wire, you have to run and go and grab. I don't necessarily see Bags as being that guy. As for Westbrook, he came back somehow, and again, I don't know what the doctors are doing there, somehow came back after knee surgery, has no minutes limit. 35 minutes, 32, 12, and 8, and the free throws, still a problem. 5 of 11 for Westbrook. That is a disaster. That is a huge... That legitimately could have lost you the free throw percentage category this week. Just a disaster. But his actual shooting was good. From 3, not so much. 1 of 6 from deep, but overall 57%. Adams had 10 and 14 with 2 steals and 3 blocks, and his free throw volume is a real worry too. 4 of 8 from the line. I have more faith in Westbrook's percentage going up than I do with Steve-O. Well, Dennis Schroeder, interesting to monitor what happened here with Westbrook starting. Schroeder went to the bench, still played 32 minutes, played alongside Westbrook and had 14, 4, and 8. Now, his field goal percentage is an absolute disaster, but I still think that he should be remaining on 12-team rosters at this point, Big Dennis, because guys like Terrence Ferguson are terrible. Alex Abrines is okay. Hamidou Diallo, MC Hamidou, he played okay, but Schroeder is going to be that best option alongside Russell Westbrook, and I think you need to hang on to him at this point. Nerlens Noel, he fouled out in 13 minutes, 6 and 5 in 2 blocks. On a Sunday, you need some blocks. You can stream in Noel, but I wouldn't be looking at him as someone I just absolutely have to hold on to, because him playing alongside Adams is not something that's easy to do, while Patrick Patterson and Ferguson, 2 starters, just provide nothing. Jeremy Grant gets the bulk of those power forward numbers, and he is more of that Nerlens Noel block stream sort of a player. Let's go on to the next one. We've got the Golden State Warriors losing to the Denver Nuggets. Steph and KD put up some pretty strong lines, while Kevon Looney, 10 and 6 with 2 blocks, perfect field goal percentage. He is, out of those big men, him, Damo Jones, and Jordan Bell, Looney looks like the guy to have on your roster. He's not spectacular, but providing the defensive numbers with high field goal percentage, he can do that. Jones racked up some foul problems, but still had 8 points with a block in his 19 minutes. Again, I would prefer Looney over Jones. Draymond, 4, 5, and 4. I told you that I wasn't a massive fan of Draymond heading into this season for head-to-head leagues. He hasn't proven me wrong so far. He will get better than this, though, I believe. While Jordy Bell, 3 minutes in this game, DNP CD last game, I don't think you need to be holding on to Jordan Bell in any 10, 12, or maybe even 14-team leagues. This was the opportunity for him to shine with DeMarcus Cousins out. If he can't even get playing time now, I think you just need to move on from Jordan Bell. For the Nuggets, 28 points for Gaz Harris. Weirdly, the free throws, the Nuggets just 57% the Nuggets on 42 free throw attempts. Horrible. Harris was at fault there too, but 3 rebounds, 2 steals, a block. Excellent from the field. This guy is really a star. While my man Nikola Jokic,
pretty good. It's pretty good.
this guy needs to be an all-star this season. He is that good. He is going to be a top 10 fantasy guy. He's the 4th ranked player so far, averaging 26, 10, and 7. The shooting percentages, he had a triple-double without missing a shot last game. He is absolutely fantastic. While Torrey Craig started for Farton Barton, 5 and 9 with a triple one. That's deep league-ish, but that's about it. Paul Millsap, man, he is struggling. 5 and 6. The 3 steals and a block are nice. I would still think that he is a 12-team guy, but again, he was a guy who I pegged as being significantly overdrafted. That's obviously the case so far. I don't really see a huge case for him to turn around and become a top 50 or maybe even top 60 guy this season. I don't believe that'll happen with Millsap, and I think what he is doing now, his struggles now, are more indicative of what we can expect moving forward, as opposed to someone like Jamal Murray, where I think that problem will get turned around. Trey Lyle had 6 and 4 in 22 minutes, so an elevation in minutes, but the production's not really great for Lyles. He was an interesting type flyer-ish guy, but yeah, you can move on there. Outside of 16 team is where you'd probably want to hold on to someone like Trey Lyles. Let's go to the next game now, the last game of the night, the Houston Rockets and the LA Clippers. Jimmy Harden, 31 with 14 assists, strong from him. He played 40 minutes with Chris Paul suspended. Eric Gordon, 21 and 5 with 33 minutes. I'll say it time and time again. Whenever one of Harden or Paul are out, Eric Gordon will put up good numbers, and then if you can flip him at any sort of way for a top 50 or top 60 guy, you absolutely do it 100%. So throw the offers out now, because people do tend to overrate Eric Gordon at times. Capella, good to see him finally playing big minutes. 34 minutes, 23 and 6 with 3 blocks. This is what we invested in him in terms of an early draft pick. Good to see that pay off. Mello, 27 minutes, 9 and 6. Not a 10-team league guy, not a 12-team league guy, and to be honest, barely a 14-team league guy for Carmelo Anthony. He just cannot get anything going. We saw how much he struggled last season. He was fine as a late pick in a draft. Let's see if he can get it going and provide 16 points or something. No, he's the 240th ranked player, averaging 8 points per game. It will get better, but it's not going to get better enough where you need to consider him a guy to roster. Jimmy Ennis, starting as well, 23 minutes for the 2nd consecutive game. A deep league guy at best. While my man Isaiah Hartenstein, really showed a bit there, I thought. A steal, a block, 6 points in 9 minutes. It's only for the very, very deep leagues and for dynasty formats, but I could see this guy being the fully fledged backup center next season, ahead of Marquise Chris, ahead of Nene, ahead of Joe Chi, and in a 15-minute role, Hartenstein can maybe be an 18-team, 16-team league guy, someone to watch, but it's really for those deeper formats. Montrezl Harrell for the Clippers had been a disappointment. For the first couple of games, we saw Boban Marjanovic play over him, but this was an opportunity for him against the Rockets. Boban was always going to struggle. He played 5 minutes in this game, and Harrell played the most, 24 minutes, 17 and 10, a steal, 3 blocks, 80%. This is why I loved him in drafts. This is why he should be playing more minutes than Marcin Gortat. Gortat has sucked. 18 minutes for Gortat, not a 12, not a 14-team league for Marcin, maybe not even 16-team. So if Harrell is on your wire, I would consider just going with him and seeing how the Clippers decide to use him in the next couple of games. As for Toby, 23 and 4 in 35 minutes, while the Rooster had 20 and 9 in 32 minutes, Danilo Gallinari. Patrick Beverley, only 24 minutes. The 4 steals are nice, but 4, 4, and 2 is not going to cut it. Avery Bradley had 4 points in 24 minutes, and I think both of those guys are not must-rosterable guys in standard leagues, while Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I prefer him over both of those players. 26 minutes for Shai, 12, 5, and 4, and I think as soon as one of those guys gets hurt, Pat Bev or Avery Bradley, Shai will start, and he will not give that starting spot back. So it's, if that injury happens this week, you're going to have Shai starting for the next 75 games. So if I've got Bradley, if I've got Beverley, I would happily make that switch for Gilgeous-Alexander. Maybe it's rough for the next week or two, but what they're showing is absolutely nothing, especially if it's Bradley. That swap Bradley for Gilgeous-Alexander is a pretty straightforward one to me, and I'd even consider that with Beverley, who's been really, really disappointing so far. Lou Williams' minutes also very low. Shooting was shithouse in this one from him, 2 of 16, 6 of 6 from the line is nice, but not going to provide anywhere near the value it appears. From what he did last season, which of course he was really, really impressive during that run that we saw him have last season. All right, let's go now and flip us into DFS mode, because that is it from the action from Sunday. Let's go with the perfect DFS lineup. We're looking at DraftKings to kick things off. Jim Harden had 63 points. Gaz Harris 40.25. Kent Bazemore also had 40.25. The table, Montrezl Harrell, 42.5. Alex Len, 44.75. Trae Young, 60. Shumpert, 46.75. Shout out to you if you had Shumpert in your lineup. Although I guess, given the fact that it was announced that he was starting, maybe some people did. Russell Westbrook, 58.5, and that's a total of 396, and that cost the full $50,000 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Trae Young, 55.9. De'Aaron Foxy Fox, 43.8. Iman Shumpert, 48.6. Jimmy Harden, 59.8. Nemanja Bjelica, 35. The Rooster, Danilo Gallinari, 37.8. Kevin Love, 40.9. In the table, Montrezl Harrell, 43.5. Rounded out with Alex Len at 46.2 for a total of 411.5. And that cost a very, very low $57,700 dues. Let's look at this slate for Monday. There are 9 games on. It's a pretty nice. It's not far off from the sweet spot of amount of games. I'm going to be covering or focusing on FanDuel pricing on today, and the pricing on FanDuel is extremely, extremely tight. So just remember that when you're looking at it, the pricing seems very, very tight. The first game we look at, the Orlando Magic and the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are favored by 12 points, and the total is 212. The Magic offense has looked shithouse in most games, although it got a bit on track last one. So it's a real tough challenge for them here in this game. Point guards, we've got to have Gordon Hayward back after he rested the last game. John Simmons missed the last game for personal reasons as well. He will be back in this game. Point guards, Jaren Grant, really weird, only 7 minutes in the last game after getting about 20 in each of the first 2 outings. He and DJ Augustin, it's really hard to have any reliability in those guys, while Terry Rozier and Kyrie Irving for Boston. If I'm going to look at anyone there, it's probably going to be Rozier. I throw him as a GPP option. If the game does become a blowout, as we expect, Rozier might get 27, 28 minutes as they rest some of their stars, and that might enable him to push past that 25, 27 point mark. He can do it. He's got a pretty decent record against Orlando, averages 29 the last 3 times that he plays against them. In 28 minutes, so about a point per minute he's been putting up. So give him 25 minutes and he should be able to at least give you that sort of value back. As for Kyrie, he's at 8,000. An equally good record for him against the Magic. I just worry that this game is going to be a blowout, so they'll just play him 28 or 29 minutes. That's my concern here with Irving. At shooting guard, Jaylen Brown's at 5,300, a real disappointing start to the season. I wouldn't have too much faith there. Same with Marcus Smart. While Evan Fournier, terrible to begin, and then a monster in his last performance where he put up 42 points. He's at 5,900. The shooting was always going to come back, and it did come back in a good way. I'm not sure his upside is massively high, especially against this Celtics team and their defense. I don't dislike Fournier here, especially with the lack of options across the slate. At small forward, Johnny Isaac finally got the minutes and didn't get in foul trouble. Put up 23 in 28 minutes, which isn't quite enough, but I still think he should be in your tournament pool of players and he did that without really getting any defensive numbers. You get 2 steals, 2 blocks out of John Isaac and he smashes through that number, and that's what you're really looking for in a tournament. Johnny Simmons is at 43 and Gordy Hayward's at 65. I don't really like either of those guys too much. As Gordon's at power forward, just consistently churning out the 40-pointers. He had 47 in the last game and was limited in that one early. He's at 8,200. Yeah, that feels pretty solid, a pretty strong floor there for Az, so I'm okay with that. While Jace Tatum is at 7,000, also cranking out the big numbers, 43 in the Celtics' last offering. I feel more comfortable with using Tates at 7,000 versus, say, Gordo at 6,500. Still, I do have my concerns with a lot of Celtics guys. Al Horford's at 7,000. I'll fade that. While Nick Vucevic at 8,200 and Mo Bamba at 42. Vooch was fantastic. Drop a triple-double last time. 65 points for Vooch. I think that price is maybe a little bit too prohibitive. 8,200. Again, the Celtics matchup's not great. And so many people are telling me with Mo Bamba, Josh, I know you played the Mo Bamba song.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But there's a song that's called Mo Bamba. You have to play that one. There might be a song called Mo Bamba. If I have absolutely no idea what it is, I'm not going to play it. Simple as that. I just don't know this song. It doesn't ring any bells for me. And while there is a song named after him, this is what I'm sticking with. Sorry. If I don't know a song, I'm just not going to be doing it. Simple as that. Let's move on to the... actually, let's not move on to the next one because I haven't even talked about the FanDuel value the DraftKings value in this game. A little bit better here. John Isaac at 4,100, way more appealing. That's super interesting, especially for tournaments. Jaren Grant, if he goes back to those 25 minutes, he's at 33. There's something there. And I love the 7,000 for Kyrie too, but there's a lot more value on DraftKings for this Monday slate than what there is on FanDuel. 5,300 for Fournier and 76 for Aaron Gordon are also pretty strong options over on the old DK. Let's move now on to the next game, which is the Charlotte Hornets and the Toronto Raptors. Looking at this from a FanDuel perspective, you've got the Raptors favored by 9.5 and the total 222.
2 for 222.
And a half points. Kawhi will be back in this game. Will the Hornets go small here? They'll have opportunities when Serge Ibaka is at center, meaning limited opportunities for Cody Zeller and Bill Hernan-Gomez. But if they go with Valanciunas, maybe that does increase some of those minutes for those centers. So it's going to be a little bit of back and forth between James Borrego and Nick Nurse, two new head coaches in the NBA. Point guards, Kyle Lowry has been playing really, really well, but his price is fairly high, 8,400. He had a 52 without Kawhi in the lineup, but even before that, he'd been putting up some pretty decent numbers. 8,400 is maybe a little bit too high, but a fast-paced game should be in the offing, and I don't dislike Kyle Lowry. I think he's a relatively solid option. I love Freddie VanVleet at 4,900. That feels like a rock-solid floor. Delon Wright is unlikely to play with that... what's he got? A hip injury, a leg injury, groin? I think it's groin. It's a groin injury for Dylan Wright. So I love Fred VanVleet at that price. Really solid floor. While Kemba is up to 8,900. Now Kemba's putting up numbers just consistently, averaging 47 across the season so far. 8,900 is a lot though. It's a big price to pay for someone like for Kemba, and I think he probably is in that fade territory. I'd rather take Lowry at $500 cheaper than I would with Kemba, or take Kawhi, the fun guy.
I'm a fun guy.
Yeah, he's only 9,800. So I think both of those guys are better options than Kemba at this point. For the shooting guards, Danny Green really flopped last time out, just 12 points at 4,700. The inconsistency is likely going to be a consistent problem. Well, that's weird to say, but you know what I mean. Consistently going to be inconsistent, but that makes him an interesting 35-point upside GPP type of a guy. That's really about where he sits. While Jez Lamb at 5,500 finally had a big game last time out. 38 points in 28 minutes, but the consistent presence of Malik Monk is going to put his upside, I think it's going to limit his upside, whereas Monk at 5,200, again, both of these guys are probably just tournament players at this point. The small forwards, the fun guy, Kawhi Leonard, 9,800, no worries there. Really safe floor, solid upside. Cash tournaments, love that. Well, Nick Batum has been playing fairly well, but at 6,900...
Giggity!
Yeah, I think that's a bit high. I love what he's been doing. The numbers have been okay, but they're not at that price. So I think on FanDuel, he's probably a fade option, while the Jedi...
Hello there.
OG Anunoby played, I thought, okay last game, 20 points without Kawhi, but it's without Kawhi. It's at 3,800. It's hard to see him being much of an upside play at this point. Norman Powell started the last game. I don't expect that to continue. He didn't do anything in that role anyway, while Michael Kidd-Gilchrist has been excellent. 7 blocks last game, Kidd-Gilchrist. Yeah, that's right somehow. He is at $5,000. He's averaging 29 points so far this season. I don't have full trust in Kidd-Gilchrist, but he's been producing. He's been a lot better than in the past, and maybe Borrego's unlocked something with MKG. I still don't have, definitely not for cash, but maybe for tournament, but still not fully into it. Love Serge Ibaka here, 5,500. I'd written off Serge Ibaka. He's played very well. It's only 3 games, but he's played very well to start this season, so I'm happy to go in here with him at 5,500. And then you've got Siakam at 5,000. I'd take Ibaka over him with only $500 more, pretty comfortably there. Marvin Williams, a couple of stinkers, a real strong one last time out. Not really feeling it against Toronto, though. Then for the centers, Cody Zeller, Hernan Gomez, and Jonas Valanciunas. I don't feel really solid with any of those players, really, given their respective prices. Zeller has an okay type of floor. The upside is really, really limited with him, while Valanciunas, the floor, who knows what they're going to do with his playing time, but he could easily drop a 30 or 35, but at 5,500, I don't think that investment in him is probably all that worth it. Over on DraftKings, way more value here. Nick Batum at 5,400. I love that on DraftKings. Lowry at 76, the fun guy at 88, Van Vliet at 46, even Kemba at 7,900. You could very easily stack these guys together, even in a tournament situation, even with the large line, because there are a lot of big lines, a lot of big spreads in the action for Monday's games. Only a couple that are under 5 points as things currently stand. So some big blowout type situations. They won't necessarily all be blowouts as well. So I think you can look to stack those guys over on DraftKings, given the extra value that is afforded to you over there. Let's go on to the next game. It's the Indiana Pacers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, the closest spread of the day. The Wolves are favored by 2.5, and the total is 224. Jimmy Butler will be back after resting the last game. High-paced game. The Wolves allowed 140 points to the Dallas Mavericks in the last game without Butler. They're just letting points go in left, right, and center. This should be an interesting game here. For the injury-wise, Domantas Sabonis for the Pacers and TJ Leaf are both listed as questionable. If Sabonis is out, it raises Thad Young and Miles Turner's floor, and it gives a little bit of value as a tournament play to the cock monster Kylo Quinn. For your point guards, Daz Collison's at 4,700. I wouldn't be interested in that at all. Jeffy Teague is at 6,800.
My name is Jeff.
Teague's been pretty good this year. 37 in the last game without Butler, but with Jim around, not really fully feeling that sort of a price tag. Derrick Rose, though, we've got to give it now. I've shit on Rose a lot, and I'll continue to do it because he's not a good person, but he has played well this season, and he looks like a different player to what we've seen last season. He still has issues with scoring and not doing too much else, but last game, without Butler, he did those other things, and that's why I'll say this all the time. When people, even if I don't like someone, as a player, as a person, whatever it is, if they do something well, I will admit it, and I will give them their props, and I do that for Derrick Rose because he was really, really good, and he's been strong this season. Last game was clearly his best. Do I believe that he's going to be a multi-categorical producer through every game? No, I don't. Do I think he'll play the 32 minutes he played last game with Butler back? No, I don't. But at 4,600, there is definitely some tournament upside in looking at Derrick Rose here. Corey Joseph and Tyus Jones, I think we probably need to fade those guys. Shooting guard, Vic Oladipo, 8,500. I'm in on that. 47 from the last game for Oladipo. If they're giving up 140 points to the Mavericks, could Oladipo just go absolutely bananas here? Absolutely, he could. Well, Jim Butler's at 9,600. I love both of those guys. A really strong pairing. I could see you stacking those guys into GPP as they go back and forward in the closest game of the night, pushing to 36, 38 minutes each, and perhaps racking up defensive numbers, scoring, doing everything. I think there's a real chance that they put up two real monster lines here. For the small forwards, Wigo has been much better than anticipated, but that price at 6,600 just shaves all the value off him, I think. So there's something there, but it's not much, while Bojan Bogdanovic, Tyreek Evans, and Dougie McDirt, not looking too closely at them. I'd look at Tyreek, who is still somehow this year playing only 23 minutes a night, but averaging 30 FanDuel points, which is a pretty bloody good return. But at that price, 6,500, you need him to play 30 minutes, and I'm not sure that Nate McMillan has the common sense to do that at this point. So that's, if it happens and Tyreek plays 30 minutes, then he's going to smash that. I'm just not sure that we've got that, so that would leave him to be a tournament player at this point. Taj Gibson's at 4,900, the lowest upside player in the NBA potentially. Floor is okay, but I'm not super feeling that. While Sabonis at 5,600 has had 2 strong games. He's averaging 31 points across the 2 games, 2 double-doubles. Really cuts into what Miles Turner can do. If he plays, and if we get confirmation, I think he's got an ability to go out there and get another 30 points, which is value there. While Thaddeus Young at 5,100 has been a real disappointment. And even if Sabonis is out, I'm not sure that he's a must-roster guy or anything along those lines. The centers, Townsy's at 10,100. It hasn't been great for Towns, clearly. Did okay without Butler, 46 points in that game, but we need 50s. He has done very, very well against Miles Turner in the past, so that's why I'm banking on him to do it again. I think his ownership percentage will be low. The price hasn't really come down too much on FanDuel, but again, we're looking at really tight pricing, and I think Towns could be an option here. Miles Turner at 6-1. I'd only really consider Turner if Sabonis is out. If DeMontis is playing 6,100, seems like it'd probably be a little bit too high for Miles, given what we've seen from him. On DraftKings, Towns at 8,700. Now that is very, very strong to me, as is Butler at 8,000. I love both of those. 2 of the better players of the day, I believe. And Oladipo at 8,200. So, if you had a core of those 3 guys, high total, high pace, low spread, good value on all those guys, it's a really solid structure, I think, for a GPP, is getting those guys, because all those prices are very, very interesting. I think Wiggins is a bit more appealing on DraftKings and FanDuel, and Tyreek at 6-1 is maybe a little bit less appealing on DraftKings than what he may appear over on the old FD. Let's go on to the next game now, where we're looking at the New York Knicks and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are favored by 11, and the total is 224.5, a real blowout opportunity here. Now, the Fort Kevin Knox is out for the Knicks. So is Emmanuel Mudiay. I would imagine that Noah Vonleh, Mitchell Robinson, hopefully Mario Hezonja all get boosts in their playing time. Maybe it's Alonzo Trier as guys get pushed down. Courtney Lee is also out for the foreseeable future for this team. At point guard, Ntilikina's at 4,800. Knox was playing some of the 3 where Ntilikina's starting, so Knox isn't around, so no one's going to be really taking any of Frankie's minutes. He has struggled a bit, only 9 points in 19 minutes last game with some foul trouble, but I think that he can come in and give you a 25 or a 30-pointer if anything clicks offensively, which is nice value at 4,800. You got Bledsoe at 77. He should be able to carve up Trey Burke, and as for Burke, he's at 5,900. Some pretty strong numbers from Berkey. I don't mind him. I think there's probably a limit to what his upside actually is, but I think he's an okay cash play here. Dante DiVincenzo, 3,900 as a shooting guard. He's getting the minutes, but hasn't really shown us enough for me to get super interested. Or Chrissy Middleton, the high price scares me off there. 8,200. It's just too high, and I won't be entering into those discussions. 7,400 for Tim Hardaway, though. Let's go. This guy is getting every shot that he can want. He's playing well. He does have some issues sometimes with shooting percentages and efficiency, but 7,400, I find it really hard to pass up Tim Hardaway at that salary. Damian Dotson and Rugged Ronnie Baker are probably going to play with Courtney Lee out sidelined. I don't think you need to care about them. While Alonzo Trier at 4,200, he's been good. I'm not sure he's been that good, though, to justify an above minimum price. The small forwards, Yanni, 12,200. It's pretty expensive. Of course, he hasn't gone under 53 points so far this season, so a safe floor. He also hasn't gone above 54 points, so all of his games have been in exactly the same zone there, but there has been some things to make you think, well, he can easily go over 60 here. And I think at 12.2, he's a pretty strong cash option, as he is most nights. While Hezonja at 4,000, a $1,400 price drop on FanDuel, I think you can look at him as a strong GPP option, especially with Knox out. Now, I don't know what Fizdale has against him and keeps preferring Lance Thomas, but if Hezonja plays 25 minutes, he will smash that. Getting to that point is probably going to be tough given the way that Fizdale is treating him at the moment, but if he does get to that level, then Hezonja should be able to smash through that pretty comfortably. Lance Thomas's minimum salary, probably overpriced to be honest. Ersan Ilyasova, 4,700. production's been all right from him. I don't really see it as a massive option here. While Vonleh and the Muppet John Henson, the Muppet dropped in 30 points last game. He's hitting threes now. He's cutting into Brook Lopez's playing time. I think he's a GPP option, probably ahead of Vonleh, who had 26 in 22 minutes last game. At center, you've got Brook Lopez at 5,600. Only the highest score he's had this year is 20. Tournament, yeah, maybe there is an opportunity here against the Knicks and Enes Kanter, but I'm not looking super into it. While Enes Kanter has been rock solid. His lowest score has been 39. He's at 7,500. Could the Bucks and a Budenholzer offense with Giannis, with Lopez, with shooters really limit him? That's a concern with Kanter, but they are riding the shit out of him at the moment, and I think 7,500 is a fairly fair price. Mitch Robinson, minimum salary, he's not doing much, but if Vonleh has to push to the 4 more, maybe that's going to open up some minutes for Mitch Robinson as a center, and that could be interesting, I guess. Over on the old DK, Ntilikina and Lopez, I think they're strong tournament options, 41 and 4,600 respectively. Really like that upside there. While Bledsoe, Yanni, and Kanter, 11-1 for Yanni, 7-3 for Kanter, 6-7 for Bledsoe. Very, very strong cash plays. Not a massive fan of Brogdon. Chris Middleton's more interesting on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. Let's go through to the next game now. We're looking at the Chicago Bulls and the Dallas Mavericks. The only spread I can find for this one at the moment is the Mavericks -7. No total released just yet. The news is Chris Dunn. The latest report is that Chris Dunn will play. The Hammer Denzel Valentine is out. Larry Markkinen is out, of course, and Dirk. And it looks like Harrison Barnes, who is listed as doubtful. Actually, Harrison Barnes is listed as out, so I don't think we're going to see the pencil make his season debut. The Bulls' defense has been absolutely atrocious, especially against big men. So there's a real opportunity in this one for many different players to go off. I believe at point guard, JJ Barea has been crushing it. His lowest score is 30 points this season. JJ Barea, he is at 4,900. I really like that. Again, given the limited quality options on FanDuel, Barea could be useful here. While Dennis Smith at 7,100, if he gets, especially if Dunn is out, if he gets a chance to cook Campaign and Zach LaVine, he could get through that pretty easily. And for as much as he's struggled with his shooting, Smith is still putting up some okay numbers. Every game he's scored 31 points, but yeah, he's still putting up some okay numbers, which at 7,100, you could easily see him going above that against this Bulls team. As for Dunn, 7,400 without playing, maybe a little bit high, but I'd be interested in throwing him into a tournament. And then you got Payne and the burner, Jalen Brunson. Probably leave them alone. At shooting guard, Luka Doncic, the starting power forward, is a shooting guard. He is at 7,500 because he dropped 41 last time out. The Bulls are bad. They will not be able to work out how to defend Doncic, I don't believe. I think that at 7,500, though, it's too expensive. He rose from 6,200 up to 7,500. Tournament, sure, he could have 45 easily, but he could just as easily have 28 or 29, which is still okay, but it's not giving you that number. Wes Matthews at 46, just because it's the Bulls, I would give him a GPP shot, but he is inconsistent. It's all going to come down to hitting shots. Justin Holiday's at 45, man. He's getting minutes. I think at 4,500, that's a strong floor, cash playable for Justin, while Zachary LaVine is crushing at the moment, shooting unsustainably well, but at 7,600, I think you got a decent enough floor there for LaVine. For the small forwards, Jabari's at 5,500, has been a real shit show so far. Not interested really in Jabari, while Dorian Finney-Smith at 4,300, giving you a consistent base of production. No pencil in this game. Finney-Smith is worth looking at again. There is limited options and limited good cheap options, so Finney-Smith can be that guy for cash games. Wendell Carter Jr. is at 5,000. DeAndre Jordan might be somewhat of a troublesome matchup for him, but it's not one to completely steer away from at 5,000. I'm just a little bit concerned about the low minutes that Wendell's been getting. While Punch Bob Shiplock, Bobby Portis, 7,100. Terrible game last game. Still had 31 points. So that is a strong floor for Portis. I think you should be in on him. Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, Ryan Brokoff, your other power forwards. Probably not. At center, DeAndre Jordan, love this opportunity. 55 last game, and now he gets to play the Bulls. There's a real opportunity for another 50 plus here for DeAndre. Love him as a cash and a tournament center. Over on DraftKings, Dunn, I think at 6,300, really strong. LaVine at 71 and DeAndre at 81. I think they're strong for cash too. Doncic at 6,800, a price rise, but not as aggressive as FanDuel. He's in play. Jabari at 48 is a tournament in play as well. And Portis at 6,600, still also looking pretty good. And it's almost impossible to ignore Wendell Carter on DraftKings. He's at 3,900, very cheap. Could easily have a 25 or even a 30-point game. And his games haven't been great, but the lowest score he's had is 15, so that's a relatively safe floor at $3,900 price tag. It's not great, but it's also not a disaster if that's what he gets you as a minimum. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz. The Jazz offense has been absolutely unstoppable, weirdly enough. I think they have 87 points in the half against the Warriors the other day. Just an astonishing number. The Jazz are favored by 10.5, and the total is 219. I've already talked about JaMychal Green being out. Kyle Anderson is questionable with an illness, while Marc Gasol is probable with back soreness. Ricky Rubio, the ravishing one, he is at 6,300. He has historically done very well against Memphis with a 35-point average. Got a bit back on track last game against the Warriors. I actually don't mind using him. He's not the strongest play on FanDuel, but I think there's still some good value for the ravishing one. Shelvin Mack and Mike Conley, I think I'll be fading both of those guys. Conley's at 7,700. Good game last time out for Conley as they smashed the Hawks, 37 points, but 7,700 against the Jazz, I think that's fade territory. Dante Exum's also been playing well, but it doesn't necessarily translate to DFS points. Don Mitchell, 8,500, has struggled. High score, 33 points so far, but this should be the game to get him back on track. But weirdly enough, he only averaged 26 points per game against the Grizzlies last season in 35 minutes. So they had his number somehow there as well. But he's got to get back on track at some point. I'm ready to bank on that. While Garrett Temple dropped 43 in a game across the weekend. Yeah, Garrett Temple, I wouldn't be relying upon that. I think that you can consider him in your tournament pool, but I think if you're looking for another replay of that from Garrett Temple, you'll be a little bit disappointed. Jay Crowder's playing well, 5,200 for Jay. I think that's solid enough floor. He's been getting more minutes than Derek Favors. He had 37 against the, 37 against the Warriors in 29 minutes. I think he's got a really, really strong floor here. Chandler Parsons, Omri Caspi, no. Well, Jingle and Joe Ingles, killing it, 7,100 for Jingle. That's a big price jump, though, for Ingles, and I'm not sure that I'm fully invested in him at 7,100, but, man, he has been absolutely on fire to start this season. The power forwards, Derek Favors, that's a strong pass, while Jaren Jackson Jr. is at 6,800. He had 42 last game and should be in line for more minutes now with the injuries, with the injury to JaMychal Green. So Jackson is fine. It might be just a bit higher, though. That's what I'm worried about here with Triple J. And going up against Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors in that front court, I think 6,800 for Jackson is probably just a little bit too high. Speaking of Gobert, 8,700, I'm in on that for that price. Whereas on the flip side, Marc Gasol at 78, I could not fade anything harder than Marc Gasol at that price going up against Rudy Gobert. On DraftKings, I like Rubio and Jaren Jackson at 5,200. That is a completely different story. Smash, 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 all about Jaren Jackson there. Gobert at 75 and Ingles at 64. Cash value there. While the Don and Jay Crowder at 47, that is stupendous value, I think, over on DraftKings as well. Let's go into the next game now. We've got, what's the next one we've got up? We have got the Washington Wizards and the Portland Trailblazers. The Wizards, who are without Dwight Howard for this road trip, are going to miss the next 5 games. The Blazers are favored by 5, and the total is 226 points. Point guards, Johnny Wall, 9,800, killing it. Damian Lillard, $10,000, killing it. I will take Wall over Lillard. I think they're both solid cash options. I think they're both strong tournament players, but I would take Wall over Lillard, save my $200, and he's been out-producing. He's looked really, really good this year so far, Johnny Wall. Seth Curry and Tomas Satoransky are your backups, and that's for a reason. At this point, at shooting guard, CJ McCollum, 7,000. Bradley Beal, 8,000. I like both of these guys as cash options. If I'm taking one, even though it's 1,000 more, I will take Beal. I would rather roll with the Beal-Wall backcourt than the Lillard-McCollum backcourt. I'm just not as big on CJ, but I think that any of these guys can be considered for cash or for tournaments. While Austin Rivers is getting a lot of minutes, he's at 3,800, but he doesn't convert that into stats. We've seen that before. He's a 36-minute guy that needs that to even come close to bringing back value, and he's not going to get that at this point. Source Castillo, Nick Stauskas, 3,600, came back to earth a little bit in the last game, but still played over 20 minutes, so there is some tournament upside for Stauskas. Otto Porter is at 6,300, just frozen out of the offense, only 24 minutes, nonsense play calling, nonsense use of the team's best shooter. I don't think he's a high upside guy, although historically he has done well against Portland with a 39-point average. At 6,300, I don't feel comfortable in recommending using him. While Mo Harkless at 41, I think we'll leave Mo alone as he still deals with that knee problem. Evan Turner, Jake Layman, Kelly Oubre, no. Power forwards, the Chief, Al Farouk Aminu,
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
He had 22 points last time out at 5,300. He is only a tournament guy. We know the inconsistencies with Al Farouk, while Markieff Morris at 5,000 has been giving that value back. No Dwight Howard. I'd be okay with using Markieff as a pretty solid floor player. Zachy Collins has been strong. $4,100 for him. He had 18 points last game, 33 in the opener. With the way that the Wizards likely go a little bit smaller with Markieff, I could see him playing down the stretch over Yusuf Nurkic again. That's tournamenty. While Nurkic 7,400, I want nothing to do with that. And Hinmi at 36, I think we'll pretty comfortably leave that alone as well. On DraftKings, Beal, Lillard, and Wall strong again. 8,900 for Wall, love it. 86 for Lillard, love that even more. And Beal at 7,000 is almost the most must roster play of the day. Almost, maybe not quite there, because there's some other pretty strong options over on DraftKings. The Chief at 46 also remains a tournament play on that site too. The next game we look at, the San Antonio Spurs and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers, the line I could find, they were -1.5. The total wasn't yet released. The suspensions are down. There's no Rajon Rondo. There's no Brandon Ingram in this game for the Lakers. So I imagine we're going to get a starting lineup of Lonzo Ball. I think we'll get Josh Hart and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, although Kyle Kuzma, the future MVP, could be in there, and then LeBron and JaVale McGee as well. At point guard, Patty Mills is at 4,000. There's tournament for Mills, that's it. While Lonzo's at 6,800. It's really going to come down to if they say he's still on a minutes limit. Now, the backup point guard there, is it going to be Josh Hart? Is it going to be LeBron? Are they going to get Alex Caruso in there? That's a real worry. 6,800 would be more tournamenty. Lonzo, in his games against the Spurs, averages 48 points, which I think he had a real red-hot shooting game against the Spurs one time last year. But Lonzo is an interesting tournament type of a guy. You got Bryn Forbes there as well, who's at 4,300, who's been a 20-point guy this season. That's a solid enough floor, and for cash, I don't hate it. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been dreadful this season, averaging 9 points per game. That's 9 FanDuel points per game. He's at 4,600, so there's a little bit of upside there with these suspensions. While Josh the Hitman Hart's at 58, he's the guy I want over KCP. 5,800 for the Hitman, who contributes in multiple categories. Marco Bellinelli and DeMar DeRozan from the Spurs. DeRozan dished out 9 assists last game. He's at 8,200. I feel like his floor is relatively solid. A strong cash play there. At small forward, Lance is at 4,800. He's probably going to get more minutes. Maybe he can produce, but it would only be in a tournament setting, while Rudy Gay's at 6,100. I just think that's too high.
LeBron James.
He's 11,800 LeBron. No Ingram, no Rondo. Could we be seeing triple-double LeBron in this game? I think there's an opportunity for it. I love him for cash here. It's hard to go past it. Even though he's been a little bit down, averaging just your old 46 points, which at 11.8 doesn't cut it. I think this is a 55er for LeBron. Hopefully for a 55er. Davis Bertans, 3,800. I think there's a tournament upside there for him. At power forward, the future MVP, 6,500 for Kyle Kuzma, has struggled this year a lot, but this is an opportunity without Ingram. We saw him put up some good numbers down the stretch without Ingram last season. Of course, LeBron's there now, but this is an opportunity for him to beat that value there. While Aldridge at 8,800 is probably just a little bit too high at 8,800, 81, 82, maybe. 88 is probably a little bit high. He's averaging 46 for the season, which is obviously pretty strong, and it's right on that value. But I think one of those includes, I think, a 19 rebound game, which he might struggle to get to that level. At center, Power's at 5,200. Power has historically done excellent against the Lakers, so you would be remiss not to include him in your tournament pools. While JaVale at 5,500. JaVale McGee is averaging 38 points in the 2 games so far. 5,500, very, very tough to go past JaVale at this point. I think you have to consider him, especially with Kuzma having to play more at the 3 and 4. That's going to open up more minutes, hopefully, for JaVale at center. Well, Jakob Poeltl, the Spurs starting center, he just does nothing. On DraftKings, Kuzma, Ball, and Hart, I really like where they sit. LeBron at 10.5, the same. KCP and Stevenson are more just your tournament guys. DeRozan and Aldridge, I think there are better options on DraftKings than both of those guys, unfortunately, for them, which I'm sure they give so many shits about. The last game of the night is the only back-to-back of the day. The Phoenix Suns at the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are favored by 12.5, and the total is 228.5. The Warriors lost to the Nuggets today. They should have lost to the Jazz 2 days ago. They should be able to handle Phoenix. Will they rest guys on a back-to-back after some of these struggles? I would say no, would be my guess. I don't know this at this point, but if players are going to be resting, they have to tell the NBA, and then the NBA releases it at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, so you'll find out pretty early in the day whether that is the case. At point guard, Isaiah Kanan, 4,300. He's been a solid low 20s guy, solid enough in cash that enables you to fit in Giannis or to fit in LeBron into your lineup. So Kanan is fine, I think, there. While Steph at 10-2. He could get sat down early if this game is out of hand. I think he's more of a tournament guy. It's probably just a little bit too expensive for Steph at this point. Shawnee Livingston and Quinn Cook. Livingston didn't play today. I'd be pretty surprised if he plays in this game. Shooting guards, Clay's at 6,600. That's a fade for me. Strong fade. Iguodala at 43, the same. Well, Devin Booker is up to 8,400. Booker has been strong this year. He had a 47-pointer the other day. He's getting assists. He's scoring. I think at 8,400, he's pretty worthwhile looking at. Far from a must-roster guy, but pretty strong anyway. Jamal Crawford played 7 minutes in his debut at 3,600. Probably go up from there, but I wouldn't be thinking he's getting the same level of playing time he did for Minnesota. For the small forwards, Trevor Ariza at 55. He had a 44-point game and a 10-point game. Maybe he should be the new sometimes maybe good guy. Yeah, the Warriors, look, we know he struggled in the conference finals against them. I'm not super interested in Trevor Ariza here. Kevin Durant's at 10-8. Strong numbers. Durant, even if it's in a blowout situation, you feel pretty confident about him getting that value back, so he is fine in cash. And you save a bit of money going with him over a Giannis or over a LeBron as well. Tony Warren Jr. hits threes now apparently. He's at 5,400. I think his upside's pretty limited, so that's why I'm not all that keen there. Josh Jackson, Ryan Anderson as your power forwards, and their strong fades. While Draymond at 8,100 is too expensive. The chance of limited minutes, the chance that he's dealing with this knee issue, the chance that he gets arrested, the chance that he doesn't produce, no interest at 8,100 at all. While your centers, DeAndre Ayton got absolutely roasted by Nikola Jokic, and centers against the Warriors, it's generally a disaster unless your name's Nikola Jokic, of course. 7,600 for Ayton to me would be tournament, contrarian. Let's see if someone can go against the Warriors, but in terms of cash, I don't think that's interesting at all. While Damo Jones at 4,600, then you've got Kevon Looney also, who is actually Looney's a power forward at 4,000. I'll take Looney at 4,000, but none of those guys look super interesting to me. Over on DraftKings, Draymond's down at 6,900.
Giggity.
There is still some risk there, but at that price, I feel all right about using him there. Clay's at 56. I also feel okay about using Clay there, although he hasn't really given us the level of value we need, and not much else super appeals to me with the old DK for this game. Let's now wrap it up by looking at my studs and values for all the sites. On DraftKings, my stud is Karl Anthony Towns at 8,700. His price has dropped. An opportunity here for him could definitely blow up in my face, but I'm feeling okay with Townsy here. While my value pick is Wendell Carter Jr., just hard to avoid at 3,900, and the Mavericks have been in some pretty high tempo, high paced games. On FanDuel, Don Mitchell at 8,500. He hasn't got it going, but it's a great matchup for him. While my value play is Frankie Ntilikina at 4,800. Again, the pricing is so tight on FanDuel. I think Frank can bring that value back though. On Yahoo, Kawhi, the fun guy, at $36. He's back after resting the last game, and the best value is Ntilikina at $11. On Moneyball, my stud is Oladipo at 88, and my value is Ravishing Rick at 66. And the stud on Draft Stars is LeBron James at 19,310. And my value play is Dorian Finney-Smith at minimum salary. Before we go, let's just throw out a best bet, and I've got the Pacers at plus 2.5. I think they can get over the Wolves. I think they can actually beat them on the road, but I think they can cover that 2.5-point spread. Guys, check out Locked On NBA. We now will have, during the week, regular guests Ben Golliver and Sam Amick on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday show, so check out for those guys. You know Sam Amick from The Athletic and Ben Golliver of Sports Illustrated. They're going to be on Locked On NBA and shows right across the network. Our sponsor today, Vivid Seats, promo code Locked On. And subscribe to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify. Leave a 5-star review, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment. You know all the ways that you can go and help this show. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Kevin Love.